3, 2, 1. Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Neve coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. So I wanted to show you guys how do I like to pick channel scripts, specifically the Waves channel scripts. You know, Waves, they got a really mean game of channel strips. So, you know, I'm going to go over a couple different companies like Waves, Plugin Alliance, UAD, just kind of like a channel strip type of, you know, situation, going over all of them, how to pick them and everything for lead vocals. So if you guys are interested in any other different videos, go ahead and drop some ideas down below. I'm more than happy to get to it. And I want to say, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Today, I actually don't got my eyeball. You know, a nigga been grinding in the studio, so I actually forgot my eyeball. I think it's in my studio or in my car, but I kind of like how it looks. It kind of looks like a lantern. Kind of looks like right now I'm stuck inside of a volcano dropping these super hot gems. All right, let's not waste no time. Let's get right to it. Let's listen to the music. Let's go. I'm making money moves. I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the standstill. My niggas trapping. I just check the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't want to do no fronting. Hey. Okay, so you guys get the idea behind that. That's actually a song I did on live stream. I'm about to start live streaming again very soon. I'm trying to get back into the flow because I just been very busy with mixing and just going hard with the game. You know, all of this information that I gave you guys, somebody had to put in the work to get it. So that's the thing about it. You know, we putting in work, coming back with that good experience and them tips, you know, that actually matter from real life experiences. Wow, who would have thought? All right, so usually with a channel strip, you know, I like to actually have a mindset with channel strips, right? Usually, you know, when I think of a channel strip nowadays, I kind of think of like the sweetening aspect. So usually when I use a channel strip, I kind of bring it, you know, towards like one of the latter parts of my plugins. I usually do like all my basic EQ and my DS, you know, kind of like the cleanup stuff. I leave it to be clean plugins, you know, because that's kind of like just the grunt work, you know, mopping the floor, wiping the table, cleaning the dishes, you know, that colorless type of stuff. The chores is what I like to do with my first couple of plugins. But usually when I come to the channel strip, I'm always thinking of like the seasoning, the sweetness and everything like that. So when it comes to a channel strip, you know, we have a bunch of different types of channel strips, but the best known one is usually something like the SSL E channel. So when I think of something like the SSL E channel, you know, I'm looking for different characteristics, right? One of the driving forces of why I usually would pick something like a SSL E channel is because of the compression circuit. You know, that compression circuit is known for being like a voltage control amplifier is what it calls. So it gives a lot of snap, a lot of grit. So usually when I'm hopping on top of a SSL E, you know, most of the time I love it because it's so tonally balanced. It's not over colored. You know, some, channel strips actually are trying too hard to be vintage and too hard to be, you know, like that sound of a console. So when you apply it to like your background vocals, it can start to, you know, overcook your song and everything like that. So that's something to also pay attention to. Sometimes you can make like your lead vocal really clean and maybe your background vocals really dirty to actually create the separation through like the tone. You feel me? Like one kind of tastes spicy, the other one kind of tastes mild, and the listener can kind of identify what is what through not only like the frequencies, right, or the compression, but also the tone, like the taste of the flavor, right, of the channel strip. So yeah, usually when I'm on top of my SSL, I love to just engage the filter just a little bit, just because I like the dB octave. You know, it's kind of like, it's very moderate. It kind of shapes the low end of the vocal pretty well. Usually when I'm also doing like, I'm going to show you the other channel strips live, but I'm just breaking down this one, right? I love to use the compression circuit, usually like a hard knee, because it's a hard knee. It adds a little bit of grit to the vocal. And the cool thing about something like a SSL E channel is that the makeup gain is automatic. So it was kind of like one of those very first channel strips that was just all in one: EQ, filters, gating, all that stuff. Sometimes I use the gate, sometimes I don't use the gate, but here I use C-Suite Vox, you know, interestingly enough. So let's listen to what it sounds like with and without, okay? Making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the standstill. My niggas trapping, I just check the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't wanna do no frontin'. Ayy, I put a SOS on it, fuck it. So because this song is kind of very, very like, you know, just a neutral kind of sounding song, you know, it's kind of like nice and vibey and chill. I would usually use something like a SSL E if I wanted something that was very neutral. Most of the color I would say is coming from the dynamics portion. You hear how the vocal just got a little bit cleaned up, you know. I usually like will push this all the way like this and kind of locate where that hunky frequency is at on a kind of very tight cue. And also I like to use this low shelf in combination with the filter to like reshape the low end of the vocal. So you heard a little bit of clarity, but also a little bit of snap, a little bit grit, like so that's one way I see channel strips. If I wanted to make it a little bit dirty, what you could also do, right? You know, just as a quick thing for you to go back and forth, you could pull the SSL E channel, right? And then actually just replace it. I don't know if this works in every DAW, but it works in Pro Tools. All you do is like SSL G and bam, there you go, a gem. All your settings are gonna be there perfectly. So you could just A/B really quickly back and forth between the G and the E. And usually like the G to me is a little bit dirtier. Also, it has like a couple of different EQ settings kind of different. So let's listen to that real quick. Making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I just check the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't wanna do no frontin'. Ayy, I put a SOS on every fuck nigga up in the. So as you can pay attention, the E is kind of cleaner than the G, and you know, you gotta know sometimes when you don't want to throw dirt. You know, you gotta know sometimes when it's okay to wear a white shirt and white pants and white shoes. You know, and you gotta know when it's the time to wear a black shirt, black pants, and black shoes, cause shit gonna get rough. So that's one thing that you should pay attention to about the channel strips, clean and dirty. All right, cool. Now let's just hop on top of this and start going over a couple of different channel strips today. So one of the channel strips I like to use a lot is something like the Shep's 73, because it's like a Neve 1073 from the Waves. Also the VEQ from Waves is like a Neve emulation, but I'm just not gonna talk too much. We're gonna just jump into it and just start mixing live. Like, how would I dial in a setting? You know, usually with something like the Shep 73, it doesn't have the complement of the compression circuit. You know, it doesn't have no compression. Like how I said, the SSL E, I go to it for the compression too. So sometimes that's what you want to roll into your head. Do I want to get a little compression that's going to make my vocal snap a little bit, or do I just want something that's just the EQ and the tone of the EQ to be more influenced in my vocal? So I'm not going to talk too much. We're just going to see how I would dial in something live, an actual mixing situation. Let's go. Making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I just check the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't wanna do no frontin'. Ayy, I put a SOS on every fuck nigga up in the hood. Better go make you on him. I follow my path, ain't wanna ever be like. Making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I just check the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't wanna do no frontin'. Ayy, I put a SOS on every fuck nigga up in the hood. Better go make you on him. I follow my path, ain't wanna ever be like. Making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I just check the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't. Okay, so you see how specifically in a situation like this, when I'm coming to my channel strip, I'm actually trying to boost boost, you know, I'm trying to get some of that analog flavor from that EQ circuit, from that, you know, also from the preamp circuit as well. So, you know, you see how I like to go about it. I like to work really, really quickly, you know, in the process of me catching the vibe. So I usually do bring in the preamp. I like to push it a little bit hard. Sometimes I like to even fuck around and use the drive mode. I like to use that on parallel. A lot of the times you guys see me do that so many times, like put it on like a parallel split on Studio Rack and blend it in to get a little grit, or put it like on an ad lib or something like that and just make it so nasty and poof, like I put TNT and blew that shit up. So yeah, you see me pushing the high shelf, right? Understanding that the Neve also has the transistors in it that's making that top start to crunch up a little bit. It's starting to make it bite, have a little edge on it. And then, you know, I'm also pushing a little bit of the high mid, bringing in the presence. And as you can see here, I kind of went to I believe this is what? There's a low shelf as well, and kind of cut it a little bit, you know, like the high pass. I go between the high pass and the low shelf, kind of like pay attention to the low end of the vocal and everything. Let's listen to it real quick. I'm making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I jet the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude, and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit make. So it's not only just the fact that, you know, the components of the Neve as well, which has a little bit of that transformer weight in it, and two, it's not just that of the Neve, it's also like the EQ circuit as well, is why it's so worldly famous. But you hear how I just made the vocals brighter without it being harsh. That's why I usually like to leave the channel strip towards the end, so I can have fun, start pushing everything aggressively. Because usually like those analog EQs and everything are a little bit more forgiving. They're a little bit less precise. The Qs are a little bit broader, so they're a little bit more musical. You know what I mean? It's not too narrow and fab filter exactly on the head. Okay, so let's look at something like the Magma BB2 by Waves. Let's dial something in real quick. Let's go. And this is like a tube channel strip. So let's see what type of sounds we can get out of this. Let's go. Making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I jet the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude, and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't wanna do no frontin'. Ayy, I put a SOS on every fuck nigga up in the hood. Better go make you one him. I follow my path, ain't wanna ever be just like. I'm making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I jet the track and the ETA say on the way still. Shawty got attitude, and she know how to move, baby. I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't wanna do no frontin'. Ayy, I put a SOS on every fuck nigga up in the hood. Better go make you one him. I follow my path, ain't wanna ever be just like them. Gotta pay the price in the streets. Ain't nothing around here come cheap unless you wanna have it. I done took the DOPE, put it in the ZIP. I done put it in the package. I done took the ZAZA, put it in the ZIP. I done put it in the package. I'm making money moves, I got a lot of proof. These niggas still on the stand still. My niggas trapping, I jet the track and say on the way still. Shawty got attitude, and she baby, I like when you stand still. Po, made me paranoid. This pack I'm smoking, this shit make a lot of noise. This whip I'm moving, this shit making hella noise. Girls love the gossip, I just let them make the noise. I wish I had a mute button. I just want a sweet talk, I don't wanna do no frontin'. Ayy, I put a SOS on every fuck nigga up in the hood. Better go make you one him. I follow my path, ain't wanna ever be just like them. Gotta pay the price in the streets, ain't nothing around here come cheap unless you wanna have it. I done took the DOPE, put it in the ZIP. I done put it in the package. I done took the ZAZA, put it in the ZIP. I done put it in the package. Reppin' that piano. Okay, so you hear from something like the Magma, the tube channel strip, you kind of get a little bit of more body, a little bit more creaminess as well. And, you know, I was kind of, the first thing I usually go for is a saturation. Like, that's what I'm looking for in the channel strip. I'm looking for the color, what type of seasoning, what type of flavor you're going to give me, depending on how you want to use it. Some people might want to put it in the beginning. But I did a couple of different techniques here on this side. So what did you do, Nick? Okay, cool. You know, you pay attention to how I was using, like, the input trim of the Studio Rack as well to also slap the plugin a little bit harder. You depending on your gain stage and how hard you hit the plugin, it's gonna create like a different kind of reaction. Think like if you in real life and you slap somebody upside the head, that person isn't gonna react the same way as if you gave them a high five. So that's a characteristic of analog strips and stuff like that. We pushing the top a little bit. You hear how pushing the top on these different EQs has a different way. I would say that the Shep 73, it crunched up a little bit. It gave us that Rice Krispie snack, crackle, and pop in the high and mid. But this one was just a little bit more smooth. Maybe it's because of going back and forth between the drive and the EQ and everything like that. It kind of like softens up the signal before the EQ and everything. So usually when it comes to like channel strips, I love to look for that long bend honk. I like to look for that sound and like to cut it out, because if you can cut out a little bit of that nasaliness in itself, it will make the vocal sound a little bit brighter, and maybe you don't have to push so much top. All right, and then of course we boost it up a little bit, bass to give it a little bit more body. After at that point, you see how I'm going back and forth between boosting the bass and the high cut, and just working everything. That's kind of like how a channel strip is. It's kind of like a network of you doing moves. And of course, last thing I want to talk about is this fader. So this fader right here, this is like, you got to understand the difference between colored gain as well as clean gain. So I'm pretty sure that this is a colored fader though. Yeah, but you see me going back and forth between this fader and that fader because sometimes you kind of pull this fader down and it kind of gives you like just a little bit of different character, and this is like a clean gain type of fader. So that's kind of how I usually like to bounce around from channel strip to channel strip. And the last one right here, I'm not gonna really show you guys how to use it because it would be way too complicated. I think I do have a video about this. If you guys want to see me make a video on this one, I will. But you have like the Shep 73, which is like it looks like a motherfucking space station. But you have the preamp, the gate, the SSL EQ, all of this stuff that it would take me a while to explain. So this is another great channel strip as well if you really want to dial in and get a specific sound. But usually in the beginning where you're learning, I would tell you to keep it simple. Learn how to perfect the SSL E, the SSL G, the Shep 73, and maybe like another one like the BB tube strip as well. So, usually with the SSL E, I'm going for like, balance. With the SSL G, I'm going for dirt. With the Neve 73, I'm going for like a crispy high end, but smoothness. So these are all different types of shoes, different types of outfits that will kind of adapt to, like the time you're making the music and stuff like that. So that's pretty much the end of the video that I got here for you guys today. Just want to say thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate y'all now, YouTube. Peace.